I wanted to ask you, Saleem, about your background, the background that brought you into Urdu, that brought you, into the world of Urdu literature and music.
It was, it wasn't my background. I mean, it's my mother tongue, but I learned Urdu after I met Begum Akhtar, or after I got interested in her music and started listening to ghazal, and I needed to learn Urdu for that reason. So for me, Urdu is something that I have acquired because of my interests rather than as something that I inherited automatically. Once I started working on it, of course, my inheritance kicked in, and it helps to have been from Lucknow and to have been what they call an Ahle Zaban, someone who speaks Urdu. It helps to learn it, but the effort, the initial incentive wouldn't have been there hadn't it been Begum Akhtar. And then my second book, where I had to look at a lot of Urdu poetry to look for the homoerotic content, which is sort of all pervasive in Urdu poetry. And that's where I learned most of my Urdu. And the Malka book was a natural result of my interest in Begum Akhtar because it seemed to have come, I felt, almost like her intervention. Because for years I had been, actually almost since her death, I had started collecting material for a biography. It's been over 30 years, I still haven't finished that biography. And the problem I had with that biography was that the more I discovered about her, the more I realized how much she was inventing herself all the time and how many lies she had been telling people and how people had then told lies, and it all went on and on and on, and she would then adopt those falsehoods. And on the other hand, Malka's memoirs, when they first reached me, that manuscript, I read the first 10 pages and I couldn't believe someone was being so candid about herself, about her origins, about her profession, about her lifestyle. So it felt like Begum Akhtar had sent this manuscript to me because it came unasked for. This manuscript just landed at my door, saying that, here, you wanted your other wife, here it is, leave me alone, So I feel, in a way, that it was her intervention that got me a chance to work on this manuscript, which is a story in itself.
Would you like to talk a little bit about how you met Begum Akhtar?
Begum Akhtar I met, she was family. She was married to a family friend. I knew her since I was a child. I never knew her as a singer because she didn't perform in Lucknow. But it was only once I came to college in Delhi that I started seeing her perform in Sapru House and learn. I mean, that was a whole new aspect of her, which was completely different from the Begum she was in Lucknow.
I know you introduced Shahid to Begum Akhtar, and he used to talk a lot about his relationship with Begum Akhtar, which he associated very much with you. And he used to tell these wonderful stories about her. Would you like to tell us some of those stories? I mean, for example, why she didn't sing in Lucknow?
You see, that's again one of those falsehoods that she perpetuated and that continue to be perpetuated by her biographers. It is said that once she got married into respectability, her husband forbade her to sing. And when she became seriously ill after that, and particularly with a nervous disorder, the doctor suggested she sing, at which point her husband said, okay, you can sing, but not in Lucknow. Now, this is completely false in the story because when she chose to marry a so-called respectable man, she clearly knew that she couldn't sing, that she would have to be giving up singing if she was going to be living in Lucknow as a respectable begum. If she was going from a kotha to a koti, she would have to stop singing. So the reason she stopped singing in Lucknow was because she knew just too many people and she would be singing free all the time. She wouldn't be able to refuse people who asked her to sing because they knew her so well and she was so polite. So that was a good way of her not singing in Lucknow, because she did sing on private occasions, on very special occasions in people's houses in Lucknow.
Now, I should explain here that as we were talking about this event before, Saleem confided in me that Malika Pukhraj had told him many, many stories, and left out many stories, and that Saleem himself agreed to leave them out and has never mentioned them because they might be so scandalous. But I told him that there's no one here who's going to talk to our family. So he just told us one of those stories.
No, that is just the occasion, but the stories that she has hinted at, but the severity of which she tailored in her book was the reason why I said she was one of the reasons why she wanted to write was to get even with certain people who had hurt her in her life. And these particularly were certain members of her immediate family, her sons particularly, who had mistreated her after her husband's death and robbed her of a lot of her possessions, and more than that, mocked her for her origins and objected to her singing or performing because that they thought was reminded them of her low birth as opposed to her husband's Sayyid ancestry.
Well, this is perhaps an unfair question, but you knew Shahid as well as anyone. Do you think Shahid had a sort of political program for Kashmir?
Oh, Shahid definitely did. I mean, what it was, I think it would be foolhardy to talk about it on his behalf. But I'm sure he did, yes. I'm
really?
certain he did, yes.
I was always trying to get one out of him.
But that's what I'm saying. It would be foolhardy of us to put it into his mouth.
Yes.
But he clearly did.